And welcome back to Inside the Valley on this Sunday morning. Right now, we're talking to the folks from the RGV Sierra Club about who they are, what they're all about, what they're advocating for, and of course, how you can get involved. Talk a little bit more about the club itself. We have Jim Chapman and Rebecca Hinojosa on the show. Thank you guys both so much for being here.
Thank you.
So I have to be honest with you, this is the first time I've ever heard about the RGV Sierra Club. I know that you guys are very active when it comes to the environment. You advocate for a lot of different things that are happening here in the Valley, especially out there on South Padre Island right now. Tell me a little bit about the club itself, how it got started, and what you guys are kind of doing right now.
Okay, well I can start with that. Well, Sierra Club itself began in 1892, founded by John Muir. It's the oldest environmental organization in the country. It gradually spread throughout the country. Now there are Sierra Club chapters in all 50 states and most Canadian provinces. The Texas chapter, which is known as the Lone Star chapter, was founded in 1970, and it consists of groups throughout Texas, and the Rio Grande Valley is one of those groups. We began in 1981.
Wow.
And really because there were a group of people who were very concerned about the environment here. We really needed more voices to speak for clean air, for clean water, for more green spaces, for habitat protection, because all you have to do is look around and realize that most of the habitat that was here is gone.
Sure.
And so those things needed a voice, and there was a good-sized number of people that believed in speaking to those issues, and also making people appreciate them and getting out and enjoying them, because outings also has always been a part of the Sierra Club.
Absolutely. How have things been here in the Valley, especially since you started the Sierra Club here? How have things been? How have things improved, would you say, since day one to today?
Well, I actually, I came to the Valley in 1979, and I've seen a lot of improvement. Back when I first came here, there were commercials on the radio that basically were boasting about how all the hostile brush in the Rio Grande Valley had been cleared. There was very little appreciation of that natural habitat, and nobody speaking for it. Also, there were very few voices, very few organizations. That has changed a lot. I mean, now there's a long list of organizations doing all kinds of conservation and environmental work, and most of those weren't here 35 years ago. So I see a big improvement.
So it's good. There's a lot of positivity moving forward, especially going into tomorrow, next month, the next year, and even the next century or so. Now, what are some of the things that you're currently working on? I know that you are doing a lot of different things here in the Valley. What are some of the things that you're currently working on, currently focusing on?
Right, so we have a very active campaign right now on the liquefied natural gas export terminals proposed for Brownsville, and that's 3 different companies with various pipelines. And that's a campaign that's organized by a coalition that we are a part of. And the name of that coalition is Save RGV from LNG. And we've been very active on this campaign for the last 3 years. Essentially, we are educating the community and working with the different Laguna Madre communities to talk about environmental impacts, impacts to air and water from the proposed LNG export terminals.
Now, there are some of these terminals, I believe, that are up in the Corpus Christi area, I believe, or up Galveston type area and whatnot. Have you guys gone up there before and kind of seen the impact that those have on the environment at all? Would it kind of translate down here as well if that was?
Well, there's only one LNG export terminal that actually is in operation, actually in the entire continental U.S., and that's at Sabine Pass, right on the Texas-Louisiana border.
Right.
And a couple of us have gone up there. We weren't offered a tour, but you could certainly see it, and it was enormous.
Right.
It was staggering how large these very, very industrialized facilities are. Corpus Christi, of course, is different from the Valley. They already have 6 or 7 oil refineries.
Right.
So they really have been very heavily petrochemical industrialized, and the Valley really has not up to now, and which is one reason why it's such an attractive place to visit and such an attractive place to live. And a lot of our economy depends on, you know, on a beautiful viewscape, on clean beaches, clean air,
Right.
and all those things we feel are at risk.
Now, a lot of people, you know, who are for these terminals to be coming here say, hey, it's going to be creating more jobs. It's going to strengthen the economy here a little bit more. Are there things that are pros that can work in both ways? Or if it does come down here, is that kind of, you know, as you mentioned, it's going to ruin the beaches. It's going to take the tourists away. No one's going to want to come down here because of just the enormity of it and what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to?
Well, I think, is there sort of a middle ground, I guess, maybe is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there is, and our group doesn't, because either they're built or they're not.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're built, there are just going to be huge impacts. They are relatively not job intensive. Would be a lot of construction jobs for sure, but once they're built, those go away, and the Cheniere LNG plant in Sabine Pass has something like, I think, between 175 and 200 employees, and this is for a $10 to $20 billion facility. So,
Right.
You know, they're largely automated. There are some jobs, but relative to the size, to the footprint, and relative to the investment, they're actually rather job poor.
Right.
And of course, then there's the issue of how many jobs will be lost that are related to nature tourism, to
Sure.
beach tourism, and so forth. So we think it's a bad trade-off.
Sure.
Right, and we know that there are about 6,000 jobs that rely on ecotourism
Oh, wow. Okay.
here in the Rio Grande Valley.
Now, for people who are watching right now and they want to have a voice, they want to get involved, how can they do that?
You can go to our website, sierraclub.org/Texas. There's also a website for savergvfromlng.com that you can visit, and we have a Facebook page, Save RGV from LNG as well.
And there you can find a little bit more information on some of the events that you have coming up too, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Let me just mention one other issue that we're also involved in right now, and that is we are fighting the construction of more border walls. Because that's not just a social justice issue, that's also an environmental issue.
Right.
Cutting off refuges or bisecting refuge tracks along the river. There's been an effort going on since 1979 to recreate a wildlife corridor along the Rio Grande from Falcon Dam all the way to Boca Chica.
Right.
To try and recreate a continuous corridor that once existed, because that's some of the most valuable habitat in North America.
Right.
And you know, to have an impassable barrier slicing right through that is, I mean, the reason to be opposed to that are many, but one of those reasons is the impacts on the ecology of the area.
Absolutely. Well, hey, I want to thank you guys both so much for being on the show on this Sunday morning. Again, if you want to find a little bit more about the RGV Sierra Club, go online right now, sierraclub.org/Texas, or call this number 975-6634. Thank you guys both so much for being here. Really appreciate it. Thanks for all the important information.
Thank
you
you
very
too.
much. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Folks, don't go anywhere. When we come back here on Inside the Valley, we're going to be talking about a very important initiative that's going to be taking place all year. Don't go anywhere.